Mr. Chairman and distinguished members, it is a privilege to participate in a discussion of what may be the most important security matter of our generation. I will not discuss the mistakes that brought us to this point in Iraq, but rather focus on what we must do if we wish to achieve success. Any discussion of what I perceive to be mistakes will be only to provide context for subsequent recommendations. Our removal of the Saddam regime introduced major instability, not just in Iraq, but in the Middle East. For generations, history will argue why. For our purposes, we simply have to accept it as a fact. We are where we are, and we cannot go back. Failure will be a strategic defeat of such magnitude that our children will be struggling to recover from it. Thus, we have to answer one fundamental question. How do we accomplish the goal of a stable, united, friendly Iraq? Frankly, neither the administration's approach of staying the course nor the various proposals for an announced time-phased withdrawal will accomplish that goal. The good news is our strategy, as expressed by General Casey, clear, hold, and build, is solid. The insurgencies can only be defeated by good governance. The first step, security for the people, is the fundamental responsibility of any government. The clear and hold steps of our strategy address that issue. The build phase addresses the other basic requirement of good governance, providing people with hope for a better future. Given we have a solid strategy, it is particularly distressing that this administration has failed to resource any part of it. The administration has repeatedly stated the war in Iraq is critical to the security of the United States, and yet has made no effort to mobilize the American people or industry. We have left the war to less than 1% of our population that has served or is serving in Iraq, and we have failed to support them. The disconnect between our rhetoric and our actions is both astonishing and immoral. To move forward in Iraq, we have to achieve three things. One, create unity of effort across all U.S. agencies and contractors. Two, put the U.S. government on a wartime footing. Three, make supporting the Iraqi government our priority effort. To date, U.S. civil, military, and contractor efforts are poorly coordinated and at times work at cross purposes. The lack of unity on our part makes it even more difficult to unify the fractious efforts of the new Iraqi government. Achieving this unity will be difficult. In theory, the ambassador leads all U.S. efforts. This must be made a fact. Only the President has the authority to force the various executive departments to unify their efforts. He must do so. Once the ambassador has the authority, he needs the right people. The current U.S. government personnel systems are actively hostile to successful counterinsurgency efforts. Insurgencies are long struggles by nature. Yet our military and civilian personnel policies still emphasize short tours with rapid rotation of key personnel. Today, a large number of our forces spend only 3 to 7 months in country. And of course, we still have no system to provide the language and cultural training essential to working effectively with the Iraqis. We need legislation now that does for the entire U.S. government what Goldwater Nichols did for the services. Such legislation must provide the career, monetary, and disciplinary incentives that will allow our federal agencies to encourage, and if necessary, order the right personnel to serve overseas. Once unity of effort is established and personnel provided, we can then effectively focus resources on our clear, hold, build strategy. It is clear that while the armed forces are at war, the nation as a whole, the U.S. government, and even the Pentagon itself are not. Despite its rhetoric, our leadership has failed to put either our personnel or our procurement policies on a wartime footing. The administration has stated repeatedly and correctly that only the Iraqis can win this war. Yet on the military side, there are too few advisors to provide the close contact the Iraqi Army needs to achieve full capability. Advisory teams should be 50 to 60 men per battalion instead of the current 10, with proportionate increases at every level above that. Further, we need to get serious about training for these personnel. However, insurgencies cannot be defeated by military action. They require all elements of government. To date, we have failed to provide the civilian personnel in sufficient numbers with the right expertise and maturity to work with the Iraqis in the civilian departments essential to counterinsurgency. Another critical area is procurement. Since the first IEDs exploded in the summer of 2003, we have known there are better, safer vehicles available than the armored Humvee. For instance, the M1117 armored security vehicle. Yet in 3 years, the Pentagon has purchased only about 1,000 of them. I find it remarkable that a nation that could produce 4,000 aircraft a month in World War II is limited to 48 armored vehicles per month today. We did not ask our soldiers to invade France in 1944 with the inferior equipment they had in 1941. Why are we asking our soldiers and Marines to use the same armor we found was insufficient in 2003? It is simple. The administration has refused to dedicate the resources necessary to make it happen. It is content to let our troops ride in inferior vehicles. Further, the administration has failed to replace and maintain the equipment necessary for the units in the United States to be ready for other potential operations. Although our units lack equipment to train, our repair depots are working single shifts and only 5 days a week. The American people have not refused to provide what our people need. The administration has refused to ask for the funding. The failure to provide our best equipment is a serious moral failure on the part of our leadership. And that brings me to my final point. There have been significant failures in leadership by both civilian and military leaders. None of the suggestions I have made will be carried out unless the leadership believes it needs to be done. To date, senior military leaders have failed to speak out for their troops. The troops and their families are suffering for it. At a more senior level, the Secretary of Defense has not acknowledged the numerous serious mistakes made to date. His refusal to see the problems means he cannot solve them. It is time for him to provide the nation the last in a long series of services and step down. In conclusion, we have lost 3 critical years in the essential task of rebuilding Iraq. We need to take action now to make our effort match our rhetoric. If we are unwilling to do so, we will fail. Thank you, sir.